for this. Thank you everyone for being here and thank you for attending the prior meetings. I appreciate that we're able to do this virtually, wherever you are. Thank you for your time, your treasure, your talent for supporting the school. So calling the meeting to order at 1:36 p.m. To start off with the agenda, I will just briefly give my president's report, which is written in the packet. It has been an interesting year, I think, as we work through formalizing the structure that we have and the structure that works best for what we want to do with the school moving forward. The school has gone through a lot of changes over the past few years, in many ways expanding the presence of the school in the city, and in that way investing in San Francisco and investing in the legal community at large. And each of you who are on this call have been instrumental in that because you've shown up and you've supported the school with what you do. And by sharing the developments of the school with your communities, we're really able to talk about the presence of the school and all the things that are happening at the law school in a way that has much greater reach than just what people can see online or read in the news. I think that it's been a challenge with what's happening internationally, but I really appreciate the way that the law school and the dean and the leadership alums have worked to focus on sort of the issues at hand, and at the same time supporting our students, which is our biggest priority, making sure that our students who are in schools now are able to graduate, to get internships, to pass the bar, and to become successful lawyers or other professionals in their community. So I thank you for continuing your investment in the school and continuing your investment as a volunteer on this board. It's also been an amazing year to work with Meredith and Charles and Hannah and Eric, who we are sad to see leave, but we appreciate so much your dedication to working with us to improve the school, to support the students, and to really engage with alums all over the world. I really appreciate Eric supporting all of the initiatives that we have brought forward to Meredith and the rest of the team. I feel that I've never felt any sort of blowback or any hesitation. To whatever extent I have an idea and I share it with Meredith and her team, everyone's been very supportive about finding ways to move forward. So Spring Week has been such a great success. Congratulations on sort of all of the awards and the engagement that has come out of that. And we will miss you at the law school, but we appreciate everything that you've done so far. We're looking forward to hearing you speak later this morning or this afternoon.
Thank you, Barbi.
Thank you. I know I'm sad that I missed last night's celebration, but I'm glad that we were able to celebrate as a school. So just generally, I just want to say thank you to everyone on this board, and of course to the dean and to Eric and to the staff for supporting all of the work that we've done this year. And I look forward to staying on the board as a general board member and continuing work on the community engagement and the ad hoc committee, and just continuing to keep the school just incredibly relevant and important in the San Francisco community, the legal community, and as a law school doing really amazing things. So thank you everyone for this past year, and I'm excited for Kelly to move forward and excited to see what happens in her leadership in the year ahead. So all that being said, the next up on the agenda is the meeting minutes. So for all of the board members, if you could, again, just take about another minute or so to review those board minutes from February. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Move it.
Hello, Claudia. Is there anyone who needs access to the document? I'm happy to circulate it.
Oh, I'll move to approve if you're taking.
Okay, oh yeah, I'll entertain a motion. Are we ready? Okay. All right, Kelly Woodruff is proposing a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Thank you, Claudia. All right, and their vote to approve. All those in favor say aye or raise your hands on the Zoom.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, or you can raise your hands now. All right, seeing that there are none, the minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. And we will move forward with the next agenda item. The next agenda item are our new governor nominees. And for this, I will cede the floor to Rodolfo. Rodolfo?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Sorry
Would you
about
mind speaking up
that.
as to our nominees before we
Sure.
make a motion to approve?
Sure. Well, everybody has the bio. Everybody has the bio. And I'll just give a quick overview. The nominations committee started meeting and emailing in the fall, and we had a lot of discussion about who we wanted to approach in terms of governors. One of the discussions we had was, whether we want to grow the board of governors to something big or keep it kind of smaller and more active. And then, that's also something that we have to discuss as an entire board. But one of the things that came out of that is that we were hoping to get more active members. So a couple months ago, we approached 4 individuals who actually all were nominated by other governors. And of the 4, 2 of them accepted. 2 of them did not. The 2 that did not were actually out of state. So we were a little bit sad to see them not accept, because it would have been nice to have had that representation. But it kind of goes with our bigger discussion, right? I mean, smaller but more active. With the 2 proposed governors, they seem really interested. They seem like they're going to be really active. One's in SoCal, one's in Northern California. So hopefully they add a lot of energy to the board of governors. They're both also recent graduates. They're relatively recent graduates. So that's it. I mean, you guys have the bios, Jonathan and Clifton. I don't know if anybody has any questions about the process or anything like that. One thing I would suggest is that, it's never too late to start thinking about who might be potential governors. We'll start this process again in the fall, and the fall will be here before we know it. So.
I want to thank everyone who did provide us with names. And even though we didn't have a large slate like we've had in the past, I think it was incredibly intentional. We wanted to make sure that, as we're changing the structure of the board, whoever we bring in is able to commit to work with us through these next few years. I anticipate that as the new structure is in place and we have a moving set of sort of rules of order for the board, that it will be easier to if we want to expand the board, we're able to do that then. I do know that a couple of the questions that were circulating were about, standard nonprofit board questions, of which we're sort of in this sort of different phase. So I'm looking forward to having, hopefully, the 2 that we're presenting today, to have them on the board and to start getting their contributions to our team.
Is it appropriate for me to speak to the candidate that I
Yeah, please do.
recommended?
Please do,
And by
Carol.
the way, I recommended 2. One of the 2 who is declined did not decline because he would definitely love to be on the board in the future. He's the founder of the Global Space Law Center, and it just happens to be a very busy time for what they're doing right now. So as it turns out, it was not a good time, but he's definitely interested in the future. But Jonathan is a recent grad, and he is so enthusiastic about being on the board. I think he will be extremely involved, and he actually just changed jobs. So he's starting in a new law firm, or has recently started in a new law firm, but he, I think, will be a really active participant in the board, and I highly recommend him. He's a wonderful young man.
And Carol, thank you so much for your recommendations. You were amazing. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for when we get the other candidate on too, because he will be amazing as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point.
He's a space law expert. I just gave the keynote at their annual symposium on space law, and he is really amazing. So when he has time, he will also be a great board member.
Yeah, the 2 people who declined, they did so because they just seem like they have a lot on their plates this year. So hopefully we'll approach them again next year.
Are there any other questions or comments about the nominees being presented? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion from the floor to approve the two nominees. Do we have a motion?
I move it.
Thank you, Claudia. All right, so Claudia is moving to approve the two nominees. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Barbara. All right, all those in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Oh, thank you. Okay. Seeing none. The motion is approved and we have two new board governors. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Rodolfo. We'll
Yeah.
update that later. Do you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, in case anybody's keeping track, I think we have 36 now with these two. So we still have a pretty healthy number.
Yeah, I believe so. We do have a couple of people who are rolling off to join the Board of Trustees. We're sad to see them go, but we're happy to know that they're still engaged with the school. So I think 36 is an accurate number. Charles might have other updates, but I believe 36 is correct. Thank you.
If we could get the emails for the two new governors so that we can each maybe send a welcome note or just, you know, reach out to them.
Sure, yeah. Charles, maybe you can help us. Let's see here, unless it's in the board packet. Scroll down. I don't see it in the board packet, but I'm sure we can work with Charles.
I mean, I would only have Jonathan. I don't have.
Yeah, I think between Rodolfo,
we'll-
Charles, and I, we should be able to circulate that to anyone who'd like to reach out for sure. Okay, so now that we have approved our action items, I would like to hear from Charles, who has some very exciting news to share. If those of you who might not have already seen in your emails, Charles, would you like to speak about the UC Law SF Wine Club?
Yeah, thanks, Barbie. Just going to share my screen real quick here. As you can see there, that is the logo of our brand new wine program. You might be asking, what is it? It's a membership-based wine club, and it does two things which are really unique. Part of the proceeds of this membership go towards student scholarship. And the other thing that this does is we're going to be featuring wines from all alumni that went to UC Law. Either those people are winemakers themselves, or they're involved in the industry. They could be general counsels, or they work for various different wineries. We've been at this program for around 3 years, and we've worked really hard to get this up and running. We actually had a previous name for the program, and it was called Hastings Tastings. And we were literally about to hit the invite button to everybody to invite everybody to Hastings Tastings. But as you know, we changed our name to UC Law. We put it a little bit on the back burner for the meantime. Obviously, with our spring week success, we then recreated a new name and a new brand called the Supreme Cork. So one of the things that myself, Meredith, and Hannah like to do is we want to get and we want to make easy platforms and connections for alumni to be involved. And this is an amazing way to just be involved through the concept of wine. So got a wine bottle here. This is not going to be featured. This is just a wine bottle I have in my home. Claudia, thank you very much for scanning the QR code. You already are ahead of the pack. We appreciate that. It is a 4-bottle club or a 12-bottle club, and it will happen every 6 months. So you get one shipment in the mid-fall around October time and one shipment in the spring around April time. And that's your choice. You can choose the 4-bottle or the 12-bottle. Our first shipment will be featuring the wines of Delicato Winery. And our alum there is Jolene Yee, class of 96. She actually has, she spoke to the school and alumni during the pandemic. She did a little symposium with Meredith, which was really neat. And then our second shipment and release will be in the springtime, and that will be with Lindsay Hoops. Lindsay Hoops is currently a adjunct professor at the college right now. And if you came to the board meeting in October, she actually did a tasting on the Friday night for that. So this is a way to showcase your school pride, to show off the school. For instance, if you were to have this at your firm, or you're bringing it to a home or a little party, you can just say, hey, this wine is actually there's a connection here from UC Law where I went to school. And so obviously, as our governors, you're our early adopters. You are our finest alumni that are our loyal supporters of the school, and folks that are dedicated and our most prominent alumni volunteers. So asking to step up today to become a member. I'll also drop the link in the chat. And you might be asking, well, I don't like wine, or I don't drink alcohol. That's okay. Maybe your partner does. Maybe your family does. Someone might. And also, even if you don't, it's a good gift idea. And a lot of the memberships that we sell can be done via gift. So for instance, if we're looking to bring someone into the governors, or for instance, you and your firm are, looking to make nice with another firm, maybe there's a gift membership there. And remember, the holidays are coming up, so you can go ahead and set it and forget it now if you'd like to, because that's in coming up in December, and the holiday rush. Getting it done now is unique. Anyway, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to Eric. This wouldn't happen without his leadership and what he's done for our advancement office, our alumni office. And when I started 5.5 years ago, we would never think of having a program like this. A lot of other schools have programs like this, and if we're able to build it, we will actually have our own label, which I'm told is what Chancellor and Dean David Fagman would like, and I would love to be able to present that to him and the rest of the admin team once we get a little further up here with our numbers. Right now, we're at 30 memberships. Our goal is 100 memberships by the end of July. I just came from the trustees meeting. I had 10 trustees sign up. So can we beat the trustees? I think we can. Let's get some signups. Barbi is already a member. And so thank you. Please consider signing up. I'll drop the link in the chat as well. And this is, again, a really good way, an easy way to be involved with UC Law. 2 shipments a year, 4-bottle or 12-bottle, and just a way to support the school with not a lot of effort. And tell your friends about it, and would love to see this move forward. So thank you very much. If you have any questions for me or about the wines or anything, you can let me know. We introduced this about 3 weeks ago. We're going to be doing another big alumni push later this week, because kind of want to galvanize the spirit of what the trustees just did with their signups. And I can see every signup that comes in here from y'all. So the first person from the governors that's not named Barbi is going to get a special UC Law hat from Spring Week that I will send it to you. And then the final piece here, and I will stop talking, but I will say, the first 100 members, you're going to get 20% off the UC Law official merch store as well by signing up today. So back to you in the studio, Barbi. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Charles. I'm looking forward to the first shipment that comes in. I still have a membership to the Hall Winery, which was signed up during COVID 2020. And I'm grateful for the relationships that you've cultivated with our alums in this industry. I didn't want UC Davis to be the only law school that has relationships with vineyards and wineries. And I know Cornell has its own thing, but I'm very excited that you've been able to put this together. So thank you to you, and thank you to Eric for supporting you, and thank you to the Dean for his vision of getting our own label. That is very exciting. And speaking of Dean, our Chancellor and Dean, David Fagman, we'd love to hear from you on the updates about campus and students and sort of all the things under your realm.
Thank you, Barbi. It's great to see you. It's good to see everybody. It may seem like I'm lounging in bed on a Saturday afternoon, and in fact, I am. I had knee replacement surgery just 2 weeks ago, so I'm somewhat immobile at the moment, but paying attention to my physical therapist my surgeon, and I expect to be back on my feet before long. But the Zoom opportunity does present, a great convenience. I just want to begin with a shout out to Eric Dumbleton. Eric has been in the position for almost 9 years now. He loves to tell the story, so I'm going to usurp his storytelling about when we first met. So he began in September 2015, and then I was named interim dean beginning January 1st, 2016. So I inherited Eric and had no idea what I was getting or what he was getting into. And the first time I met him was over coffee in Manhattan, and we just sat down and hit it off right away. He loves to tell about how he summers in the Bronx, which, as a kid from Yonkers, just north of the Bronx, I thought was an inherently problematic statement. And then the problems continued because it turned out that he was a Yankees fan, and I'm a Mets fan. And in New York, Yankees fans and Mets fans don't typically get along. And also, I'm a Rangers fan, and he's a Caps fan. But the Caps have historically been so bad that nobody really paid attention to them. So I think that was okay. But I just really want to say thank you to Eric. I know he's going on to other pastures, not necessarily greener pastures, but other pastures. And I really do wish him the best. We've had great success. He has literally doubled and then tripled the amount of annual giving that the school has received. On top of that, he has truly professionalized the office. So as he leaves, I am 100% confident that the office will continue. We will find a great replacement for him. But the folks in the advancement office are true professionals. They know their jobs and they do it really in an outstanding fashion. And Eric and I have developed a great friendship over the years, traveling around the country. And I know that friendship will continue. So Eric, just wanted to say thank you publicly, and especially in front of this great group of the governors, because they're such an important part of the success of the school.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And you hit the nail on the head on all fronts, including the capitals.
All right. I do want to just let you know that we're in admission season, so we're just past the second deposit. We are expecting to welcome a class in August of around 390 to 400 students. They look to have similar metrics to last year. Actually, the GPA appears to be a little bit higher than it was last year, but it's an extraordinarily diverse and talented group of students. So we're very excited, and it looks very promising for this class of 2027 as they come in. I do want to mention, and Barbi mentioned it earlier, about it being a somewhat tumultuous year on university campuses. And I have to say, I'm very proud that our campus was relatively quiet in that regard. And I wouldn't say it was quiet in terms of our students not being engaged. I think that they were fully engaged. There were very difficult subjects, both nationally and internationally, to have conversations about. But I think that they did a great job of really reaching a level of professional maturity to have those conversations in a civil discourse that respected different points of view, which of course is what lawyers should be doing. Lawyers are advocates for very controversial subjects from time to time, and you have to be able to have a conversation, understand other points of view. I do want to shout out a little bit to the Provost and Academic Dean, Morris Ratner, the Dean of Students, Tiffany Gabrielson, and in particular the Student Services Department really did a great job of working with our students and having them understand the need for real civil discourse. That has not always been the case on our campus, and it's not the case on many campuses, but I think that we've developed understandings and rules of student conduct that people understand and respect, and we are devoted 100% to academic freedom and the First Amendment as a public institution, and we're going to plan on carrying that through this year, when it will be, again, I think, a somewhat tumultuous fall with the election in November, and God knows what will be happening internationally. In terms of the school, of course, the vision for the school is this idea of the academic village. And a big part of the academic village is to identify and develop collaborations and partnerships. And I think that we've had many, of course, our great partnership with UCSF, in particular the School of Medicine, but we have a 3+3 program with Spelman University, Spelman College. We have a 3+3 with Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And we have UC Davis's graduate program on campus this year, and they've been with us for a couple of years now. And this year, a couple of things developed nicely. We actually had an outreach from the School of Pharmacy at UCSF, which is a absolutely fantastic school. And we had a great meeting with this past semester with the Dean of the School of Pharmacy, as well as several of her leaders. We talked about the current degree programs, joint degree programs, as well as scholarly collaborative opportunities, in particular in the area of artificial intelligence, which they're leaning into and we're leaning into, as well as, of course, in pharmacology and pharmacy, concerns about regulatory processes. So they're very interested in law and policy. They saw us, they reached out to us. We obviously were very welcoming of that outreach, and it looks like an exciting opportunity for partnership. We have historically been more associated with the School of Medicine than pharmacy or dentistry or nursing, but I do think that this is a measure of a direction that we're going into, is to expand our opportunities for this kind of collaboration. We also got an outreach from the political science department at University of California, San Diego, interested in creating pipeline programs between their undergraduate population and our great law school. Of course, political science is a standard undergraduate major, but at UCSD, they're very life science and health science oriented, and they see the opportunity in Northern California, Silicon Valley, San Francisco with AI as a place where many of their students would be interested in going to law school. So we're developing that relationship as well. I see that Mario Lopez is on. We have had a very active year this year in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, as well as first generation initiatives. It's been a very active year, I think a very positive year on campus, and it really is developing a wonderful community where folks feel welcome. And I mean that from across the board. And this has always been my first principle, that whether it's the National Lawyers Guild, which is a very progressive organization, or the Federalist Society, which is a very conservative organization, everybody is welcome on our campus. Every point of view, legitimate point of view, is welcome on our campus. And we expect that people will engage in those kinds of conversations. And I think that Mario is just, as our Chief Diversity Officer, has just done a spectacular job, not only of developing those initiatives, but of really modeling that level of civil discourse. And of course, our centers also represent that diversity. We have the Indigenous Law Center, we have the Center for Racial and Economic Justice, we have the Business Law Center, we have the Tax Law Center, we have the Center for Innovation, we have Lex Lab. And so all of these initiatives, centers, clinics, and other programs really do illustrate one of the great strengths of UC Law San Francisco, in that we're a large law school in an urban environment where somebody can pursue the path that they individually want to pursue and experience other paths because our curriculum is so broad and so deep. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, as many of you know, and some better than I do, the budget in Sacramento. I spent a good deal of time in Sacramento this year. The governor's budget originally proposed a operating increase, augmentation in our budget. It appears that we're going to keep that, but in Sacramento, they're talking about a deficit somewhere between $30 billion and $70 billion. And obviously that's going to affect how money is spent throughout the state, including, of course, the University of California, the CSU system, and our own campus. They are anticipating that next year there may be as much as a 10% cut if tax receipts don't improve over next year. So I do call upon all of you to pay your taxes, liquidate some of those assets and pay the capital gains as well, because it all eventually ends up in the public coffers of California. And then in terms of the state of the physical campus, it is just a beautiful, beautiful campus. 333, the Kachet Law Center is a spectacular building. The Deb Cloakroom Room and the Sky Deck is just a favorite place for people to meet. The 200 building is now fully renovated and is in great shape. And all the centers and clinics are either in 333 building or now on the 6th floor of the 200 building. And then the 198 building, our 14-story brand new building, opened last August, is just a jewel in our urban campus. And we not only have the new courtrooms, but over the last couple of months, Spro Cafe opened up in the lobby. And so the lobby is becoming a much more active place, and it has some of the best espresso drinks in San Francisco. So I recommend that to you. If you have not yet seen the 198 McAllister building, you still think of the campus as the old 198 concrete bunker, please, please, please come back and visit the campus, because you will be blown away by the beauty of that building, including the courtrooms, the auditorium, and the 7th floor social commons, which is just absolutely beautiful. And then finally, we will be trying to replace the irreplaceable Eric Dumbleton. We have already started interviewing candidates. We have a pretty strong initial pool, and just a couple of days ago got a few more applications. So we are confident in the short term. Leo Martinez has agreed to check in with Eric's direct reports. Jenny Kwan, my chief of staff, and I will also be working with the advancement office. I expect very little, if any, interruption in our activities, again, because we have such a fantastic professional staff there. But we're hoping by late August, early September at the latest, we'll have a new chief advancement officer. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Barbi, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I know in the agenda you have me answer any questions after Eric, and I'm happy to do that as well.
Great, thank you, Dean. I feel like for time, we do have a couple of minutes for questions if there are any burning questions people have for you. Otherwise, we can wait until the end if people have questions.
Barbi, I have a question. It's Rachel. I'm in the car, as you know. I guess there, as I was cogitating on this budget issue in Sacramento, there's the immediate issue of operating budget for the school. Then on top of that, there's the issue of how do you plan, if you do, for how this has a cascading impact on current students and people who are going to be graduating. So for instance, the opportunity for clerkships or externships with courts, since the courts have I think the last budget said a $97 million drop in budget for California state court system. And then state agencies that might be potential employers or for summer opportunities for students. So is there consideration being given to how we plan for that relative to the scholarships, for instance, David, that you can give to people?
So it's a great question, Rachel. I think that, well, for the externships, those are likely less affected and might actually be benefited because they don't get paid. So they get credit and they're supervised. So I don't think it's going to impact during school. I do think clerkships are probably baked in, and many of the clerkships are federal clerkships as opposed to state clerkships. The state judges tend to hire fewer full-time annual clerks, but I absolutely agree that when it comes to public services and other governmental agencies or state agencies, there's likely to be some retraction and some, figuring out what the personnel is going to look like. I think right now we're in kind of this holding pattern for this year. So I think it's too soon to panic. I think that everybody I've talked to is hoping, given where the economy is today, and the stock market is actually very strong, that over the next 6 to 12 months, things will turn around with California. A lot of California taxes, as I'm sure you know, really are paid for by the billionaires. And one of the things that happened this past year was fewer IPOs, and there was less money being thrown around. So I do think that those are things to take into consideration. In the long term, you raise an excellent point. We need to be driven by the employment prospects for our students and graduates. And whether it's artificial intelligence or the California economy and budget, we should not be admitting students that we can't find jobs for and make sure that they're gainfully employed. But it's hard to predict, where things are going to go. Artificial intelligence has as much potential to increase the need for lawyers as to decrease. Right now, it's a boon area, and in intellectual property and other areas, artificial intelligence is creating more problems than it's solving in terms of ethical and legal problems. So, as Yogi Berra used to say, predictions are really difficult, especially about the future. And so I think we do everything we can to respond to what we can see concretely. And after that, we just have to, keep doing what we're doing as well as we can. But it's a really good point, and it is one of those things that keeps me up at night.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Rachel, for the question. I'm going to ask Eric to give his report, and then if there's more questions that people have, or if you have other thoughts you want to add to that, you can at that time. So, Eric, our Chief Development Officer, who is on his way out the door, but has much to report about what he's done while he has been at the school. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, President Appelquist. And just really quickly, I was joking earlier, I think that there's some relationship between length of service and length of goodbye. It's been a long, bittersweet goodbye, but I've been just really struck by how kind and thoughtful and celebratory it's all been. I want to thank Chancellor and Dean Fagman. As you mentioned, David and I developed a very close friendship over the years. Needless to say, my decision to make this move was extremely difficult, and my relationship with David and how close we are made it even that much more difficult. But without David's leadership and without David's vision and his partnership, we don't have the success that we have. So, and he knows that, and that's why I'm so optimistic and excited for the school as I depart, that it's in great hands and in great direction. Also, can't do without you all. So I want to thank the Alumni Association Board of Governors. You're out there, volunteering your time, effort, and energy in support of the school and advancement of the school. So thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do for the school. And finally, and last but not least, just the advancement team. I'm looking around, especially Dr. Meredith Jaggard, a total star. And I said this yesterday, just change the complexion of our team when she joined us. I'm proud of the work that we've done to build the culture that we've built. And we got it off to a good start. But when Meredith came on board, she was the missing piece that really helped us kind of develop and establish what we've been able to do in the Office of Advancement. So big thanks to Meredith, a big thanks to Charles. And then I don't see Hannah, but she's also been fantastic. So thanks to all of you guys. And on to my report, which will be, I'll do this quickly and then we can answer questions. But as you all know, we are continue to be in the quiet phase of a comprehensive campaign. So this will be some repeat from past presentations, but I think that's also important so people don't forget what we're doing. Let me get here. There we go. So this is, basically just an overview. So we are sticking with our $100 million goal. Going to see how we progress in the next probably 10 months, but we're on track for that. I always like to say any good fundraiser and fundraising shop will be donor centric. That said, we do try to impress upon our stakeholders the importance of our endowment and building that endowment. Mentioned we're in the quiet phase. So as of May 30th, we've raised 50.6 million. I'll detail that a little bit later in my presentation, but we're officially past the midpoint mark, which is fantastic. Our goal right now is to get to 60 million by like April, May of next year, so just under a year. And that number is set at 60 million because we want to publicly launch the campaign to everyone in the fall of 2025. And before you do so, you aim to be 60%, minimum of 60% toward your goal. Of course, we're talking to our stakeholders and donors about key priorities, which I'll show you in a second. And then the final thing is, you know, obviously our alumni are a built-in stakeholder community and support community. But with the academic village coming online, you know, all of the exponential increase in students, graduate students that we have living in the neighborhood are really impacting the neighborhood and the city. So that opens up opportunities to talk to what I called San Francisco stakeholders about supporting the school. So we're going to do that as well. Here are our, you know, you probably anticipate these, but number one is student support. You know, it helps us attract and retain high achieving students. It eases their indebtedness upon graduation, which is, I think, something we should talk more about when we're talking to donors. Faculty chairs and professorships help us, again, retain notable scholars, but also recruit them to the school. And then you know, David mentioned a lot of the centers and programs that we have. So any funding that we receive in support of those can either, you know, endow a center or create a symposium, anything along those lines. But again, as we're talking to donors, we're asking questions and listening, and then kind of helping them identify things that, you know, they want to support. Here's our timeline. Again, this is kind of a refresher. So we're kind of, you know, in the second half of our quiet phase. But again, on track. We're on track for fall 25 public phase kickoff. This is a detailed accounting of our progress. So, you know, we can go down the chart here. It's divided by fiscal year. I guess a thing really worth pointing out is the distinction between current gifts and planned gifts. So current gifts are cash and pledges, and then planned gifts are documented estate gifts. So if someone signs a Legacy Society form and says, I'm leaving $1 million in my estate for UC Law San Francisco, that $1 million would be added to this total planned gift line, and then equally to our total raised. So those planned gifts are critical pieces of our effort with this campaign. And then there's a percentage breakdown below. So basically, you know, ordinarily you want to be between 25 and 35% of your total raised represented through planned gifts. So, you know, we're kind of right into that range. And again, halfway to our goal. Some observations as we're looking at getting to 100 million. We've brought in 7-figure gifts. We're going to need an 8-figure gift or two. We have prospects that could make those level gifts, continuing to work with them. David is doing a fantastic job with some of our highest potential donors. And then my team continues to cultivate. We have a couple outstanding assets they'll be following up on. And then again, a lot of 7-figure gifts that we need, 16, you know, to have a successful campaign. And then there again is our total. And then how can you all help? Just keep doing what you're doing. Help us connect with potential supporters, host or attend events. And then to the extent that you're able, making commitments of your own, commitments of all sizes matter and are needed. So, consider that. And that bottom one, a blended gift, is making one of each. So maybe you make a pledge and then you also leave in your estate plan something for the law school. So that is called a blended gift, and we really like those. And then I will stop sharing. I know David and I are collectively going to answer questions. The only other thing that I would share, and I'm not going to have a graphic or anything, but we have eclipsed the $10 million raised mark again this year. So we're at like 10.5 million. So I think that's like 5 or 6, I think it's 6 years running now. And again, that's a credit to David and my team and all of you and foundation board. It's really gratifying to see that success sustained for so many years. It really, I think, is a testament to, again, everybody's leadership and efforts, and certainly signifies that, the school's certainly on the right track as it relates to philanthropy and engagement. So I'll hand it back to you, President Appelquist.
Thank you, Eric. And thank you for that report, and also sort of just like the state of things. I know that for a lot of us on this call, that it's good for us to know where we're at and where we're going and where we want to go.
Great,
So
absolutely.
helpful. Are there any questions? Carol, I believe, has her hand raised.
Well, first of all, Eric, we are really going to miss you, and you've done such a spectacular job. It's really been great to work with you, and I'm glad you're a Yankees fan, so am I.
Thank you, Carol. All right.
So,
Sorry, Dave. That was not a plan,
kid,
David.
when I was a kid, my mother and sister finally left, but my dad and I stuck it out for what at that time was the longest baseball game in history. It has since been beat, but it was a long one. And that was with Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra on the field.
Oh, wow. That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah, pretty cool for a girl from Fargo, right? So I don't know if it's appropriate for you to share this, but I'm just curious. I mean, it's amazing how much you've done in the Quiet campaign. Can you share with us who some of the larger donors are, and if you can or if you can't, how much of that is foundations and how much would be major donors?
So the biggest
oh, and by the way, I'm just about to share for all of you in the chat, if any of you want to send a welcome note to John, he goes by John. I'm just going to put in the chat his email address.
Yes, I was going to say thank you, Carol, so much for those nice words, and go Yankees. This could be the year. Sorry, David. It's been a little while for the Yanks. So in fiscal year 22, we received extraordinary gift from the estate of Mary Kay Kane, who had passed away, I think to the tune of like $8 to $9 million. And that year we raised over $17 million. So that was something that really gave us a kickstart in the campaign. We've just closed a lot of like $500,000 gifts, $1 million commitments. So I don't know about naming names necessarily. You can walk around and see I guess if they have the signage, it's not exactly clear how much people gave, but all the namings around the school, that gives an indication of who are the bigger donors. But yeah, I think the success that we've had with this campaign, and since I have arrived, is focusing on, at least from just a kind of face-to-face fundraising perspective, folks like Joe Kachet's a great example. When I started, and then David started as chancellor and dean, he and I built an amazing relationship with Joe, and we were able to, develop that relationship in a way that made Joe feel, I think, comfortable and excited to make gifts that were exponentially larger than any of the ones that he had made before. So that was one of the strategies coming in was, who's been giving consistently, who's close to the school, but not giving to their capacity. Let's build those relationships and focus on those individuals. I mean, our donor number has been kind of flat. It's gone up a little bit. Some years it's gone down a little bit, other years, but our dollars raised has gone up, you know, and been pretty steady. So that's just, again, been, you know, keeping that foundation in place with Meredith and her team with engagement and, you know, annual appeals. And then David and I and so the major gift fundraisers on my team, you know, just doing a good job in terms of face-to-face relationship building and fundraising.
And is there a concern? I mean, this is what I always wonder about. So in the quiet phase, obviously, one raises a significant amount of money, but then you still have a pretty significant amount of money left to raise. And so how do you deal with the fact that the low-hanging fruit has already been captured?
Yeah.
And
So
then,
yeah, that's a good question. So part of the idea is that the individuals within our community who are standing on the sidelines, once they see the success that we've had, and learn more about the direction of the school and the kind of objective of the campaign, that those donors will be tempted to kind of re-engage and get connected. So there's almost like this proof of concept kind of psychology where, you know, people who do have the capacity, who maybe have been, you know, ambivalent, see that like we're doing something that the school's never done before and we're doing it successfully. And so they're interested enough now to get engaged. Some of the people that made gifts really early on, well, you got to kind of bookend commitment. So the low-hanging fruit will, you know, have finished paying off their pledge by now or maybe next year. And then, you know, in year 6 or 7, we go back to them to help close it out. But yeah, it's that's to answer your question. I mean, that's kind of the approach and what we hope the expectation is. And that's part of the, you know, the public launch in the fall of 2025. There'll be a really coordinated strategic effort, what we call like a warming campaign. We'll send messages out to people that we identify who have significant capacity, but who haven't been giving. And we'll start teasing the campaign a little bit with them in hopes that it captures their attention. And again, they see that this is a successful endeavor, that the school's making great strides, and ultimately, you know, inspire them to join the effort and get on board.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, or David or me?
So one of the questions that I often hear from alums are tied to our rankings. And I just didn't know if you wanted to touch on that a little bit, because over this past year, there was a change in an intentional decision not to provide, right, the U.S. News and World Report with certain data. So I didn't know if you could just speak a little bit about that. Dean Fagman and,
Sure.
and Sarah.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Barbi.
Thank you.
So the rankings, you know, historically, U.S. News has been the primary ranking service. They have long been considered to be little more than, you know, sort of sugar-coated junk. If you look at, I don't know if somebody could pull up, because I won't be able to talk and do that at the same time, but there's a wonderful graph, Eric, I don't know if you can find it, that shows the variability of U.S. News. And when you look at that graph, you immediately realize that it's just complete junk science. And so the one thing that happens is U.S. News changes its algorithm from year to year. So it creates a great deal of variability in the rankings. And then a couple of years ago, the school started deciding that they were going to get out of the business of participating in this ridiculous exercise. And so this really, if you look at this, you can see that the top 14 or so schools are pretty consistent, not surprisingly, the Yale, Stanfords, you know, Chicago's and so forth. But as you get down into anything below that, there's this incredible variability. And what this is from year to year. And so you look here at the University of Kansas, go back to that. I mean, do schools really change like this from year to year? And so the idea that you would have a school go from 70th in the country or 67th in the country to 40th in the country in a single year. Did Kansas all of a sudden have a great recruiting year? Is their law school like their basketball team that if they get a couple of All-American stars that now they're going to be a top 20 or top 10 school as opposed to being 25 or 35 out? So this, I think, illustrates better than anything I could ever describe how ridiculous the U.S. news is. And it's just gotten more ridiculous over the last couple of years because over 50 schools now, I think it's about 53 schools, have decided to opt out of giving them information. So U.S. News now has to go to public information because they can't get the information from the schools. And most of those 53 schools, including us, are the top schools in the country. They are all the University of California schools pulled out of participating in U.S. News. And you don't want to participate in something that is, doesn't have any validity associated with it. So now they completely changed their algorithm. And so the peer review rankings, which we've always done very well in, top 35 or so, the lawyer judge rankings, which we've always been around the top 25 in, those have actually been discounted now going forward. And the top two factors that they look at are bar passage and employment. And those numbers for us are not terrible, but they're not sterling, partly for reasons because we're in San Francisco and we're in California, and they don't weight it depending on what state your students take the bar exam. So if your students are taking the bar exam, and this is why it's actually hurt Davis, Irvine, and even Berkeley and UCLA a little bit, is our students are taking one of the hardest to pass bar exams in the country. And so just naturally comparing us to students at Ohio State or University of Alabama, in the algorithm, our students are not going to do as well on the bar. Our pass rate last year was 74%. Again, I get it that we should be up over 80. We should be one of the top 5 or 6 in California, and that's what we're aiming to do. And then our employment was 93% employed, which is actually quite good and at historic highs for UC Law San Francisco. But many of our students just want to stay in the Bay Area, and they end up not taking a job in even San Diego or Los Angeles, much less Houston or Dallas. And so a lot of schools, I went to school in Virginia, UVA, nobody stays in Charlottesville. And what you do when you're graduating is you go where the jobs are. And so many of my classmates went to DC, some went to New York, some went to Boston, some went to Atlanta, many went to Houston or Dallas, because you're looking to start your career and you go where opportunities, are present. In San Francisco, because San Francisco is such a great city, we're actually a destination law school. People come to us partly because they want to practice in California, they want to practice in San Francisco. And in fact, an amazing statistic is that of the associates that begin in San Francisco, annually 20%, last time it was counted, 20% are UC Law San Francisco graduates. So we supply 20% of the beginning associate class in one of the toughest markets in the country. So it shows that we have great market power, but it also indicates that we're in a competitive market when you compare us to the University of Alabama's. And we don't compete with the University of Alabama. So the whole idea of that Alabama is ranked, whatever they are, 24th or 25th, which is just silly. Who cares? Why would you ever compare UC Law San Francisco to Alabama or Ohio State or University of Richmond or all these other schools? So the whole ranking system is completely ridiculous. It's completely invalid, has incredible variability. And I have no intention of participating in a program that is so completely invalid and is just voodoo science. So I get it. The only reason why it's important is that prospective students sometimes care about it. Alumni sometimes care about it. But in the end, anybody who looks at it seriously and looks at that graph that Eric put up would know immediately that that kind of ranking is completely worthless. And so my entire philosophy, and I came in with this view, and I will go out with this view, that if you build a great law school, and we are building a great law school, and we are coming from a foundation of a great law school, but with the new 333 building, the new 198 building, the renovated 200 building, when 100 is done, with the centers and the clinics and the curriculum and the diverse and talented student body that we have, being in San Francisco, being one block, less than a block from the California Supreme Court, 2 blocks north of the Ninth Circuit building, 2 federal buildings surrounding us. Those things are going to make us a great law school. And eventually, if we just keep our eye on the ball and we do what we need to do on bar, on employment, and on educating our students, we will gain that prominence over time and be recognized for that. And so I think that it's a distraction to worry about US News. Maybe it'll take 5 years, maybe it'll take 2 years, maybe it'll take 10 years. We will be recognized as one of the great urban law schools in the country. And anybody who comes to visit the campus can immediately recognize that we have truly one of the best physical campuses in the country. And I think that we have one of the best curricular offerings and faculty and staff and students. So Barbara, you had a question?
I did, thank you. I know it's hard to get a lot of, to compete with all the press out there, but for the schools that participated in choosing to not provide their data, was there any strategic effort to try to get more publicity and kind of more mass media so that more people understand that there was some strategy and thought behind not providing that data, and therefore that might impact our ratings?
Yeah, it's gotten some attention. I know that there were several articles in the New York Times. Not every prospective student reads the New York Times. I think the thing that will make the most difference, Barbara, and I think it's a really important point, is to have something. We all want to rank. I get it. My background is in statistics, so I care about what are the best. That the Capitals are a terrible hockey team, where they rank. The Yankees are, whatever they are, the Dodgers, and so we're all statistically based, and we're into the AP and coaches polls, and so I think it's a natural tendency to want to rank. So, and I think that there are ways to rank it. The New York Times had a piece in there. I just saw something recently that suggested that we do the same thing for law schools. Is instead of giving a single number as a rank, if you ask students, what are they looking for in a law school? Are you looking for a health law program? Are you looking for an urban environment or a suburban environment or a rural environment? Are you looking for a large school? Are you looking for a small school? Are you looking for a school that is in the Northeast or a school that's in the Southwest? And you put in all the factors that you care about as a prospective law student, and it will kick out the schools that excel in those areas. And the New York Times did that for undergraduate institutions. And it was actually really great, because if you say, you're interested in a small liberal arts college in a more rural area, Harvard doesn't show up in that ranking because that's not what you're looking for. And I think that a little bit more of an individualized ranking system would go a long way, rather than trying to think that there's just one number that means everything. And I will admit, I'll be the first to admit, because I visited at, in terms of giving talks at Harvard, at Yale, Michigan, Virginia, these schools that have great resources. Frankly, I think there are 10, 12, maybe 14 schools that are at a different level in terms of their resources, in terms of what they have, in terms of buildings and everything else. And they're national law schools. They truly are. You can go to University of Pennsylvania and you'll be competitive anywhere in the country. And then there are great public universities. There's University of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Davis, Irvine, UC Law, San Francisco. Those are the schools that I think are strong nationally at a level, but more geographic and regional. And I think that if you did rankings where you said, okay, there's a group at the top that, for all intents and purposes, it doesn't make a difference in your career whether you go to Chicago or Michigan. It just doesn't make any difference. It depends whether you want to be in Chicago, you want to be in Ann Arbor. Similarly, and it does not make a difference whether you go to Iowa, Wisconsin, or UC Law San Francisco, except depending on where you want to work when you get out and what kind of experience you want to have in law school. And so those schools should all be lumped together as in one great mass. And then there are schools that are struggling somewhat. I mean, Cal Western in San Diego. I know the dean there. I think she's absolutely fantastic, Sean Scott. But they don't have a very strong reputation. They don't have great resources. They don't have great clinics. And it's a different level of law school experience. And those schools are going to be at a lower level in any kind of a comparison. So I think that would be a much more rational way to approach it. But you need a, to your point, I think you need a substitute. You need the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times to basically undermine and usurp the authority of U.S. News.
Thank you for that question, and thank you, Dean, for giving such a thorough discussion of what went behind the decision of the school to not include data and how it's not alone and how the reporting statistics are outdated, to say the least.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
Thank you. So we have time for a little break. And then after the break, we'll come back for breakout sessions with our different committees, our 4 different committees. The 4 different committees are, I just put it in the chat, community engagement, employment and employer relations, student liaison, and fundraising. So we can turn off our screens for about the next 8 minutes until 2:50 p.m. And then we'll resume in breakout sessions to talk about kind of our plans and goals for the next school year. So if you're unable to return, I understand. Just send a little note to Charles or post so that we know that you won't be returning. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing everyone, all the board members come back at 2:50 p.m. Thank you, Eric. Thank you again, Dean Figman, both of you for being on today's call. I wish you a speedy recovery, pain-free, and full mobility when your physical therapist gives you permission to do that. And
Okay.
Eric, I
Thank you,
hope we
Barbie.
get to reconnect again in San Francisco.
Absolutely. Thank you,
All right,
Barbara.
take care, everybody.
Thank
Thank you all.
Take care.
Bye.
And we'll see the board members in about 7 more minutes. So see you again at 2:50.
This was to say goodbye to all of you as a member of your board, but not goodbye forever, because I think it's really important that the board work together. And it's something that's always been a source of frustration for me. So I'm hoping to be able to make sure to stay in closer contact than perhaps has been happening in the past in terms of communication. So I just wanted to say that. And I know Barbara's already had to drop off. She's probably racing to the airport. But thank you all for being so welcoming over the years and so on. Well, so I'll see you around at joint board functions and also across the other stuff.
See you again. Thank you, Rachel, for everything. It's been wonderful being part of the board with you.
Bye, Rachel.
Okay. That being said, Rachel's also a past president, so it's been great to have her continued involvement on the board. Looking forward to working together with her as she sits on the trustees. So Charles, if you'd like, either you can directly send a note to Charles and he can put you into breakout room, or again, if you are unsure which one to go to, we can move you based on prior meetings. And I'll make the list out again.
Charles, can you just put me in a room? I think it's number that I usually participate in.
And yeah, also, if you'd like to, you can go into the little tag at the bottom of the screen. There's the ... more. There's an option to select your breakout room to join as you'd like.
Al, would you like to be in a student liaison or community engagement?
My interest, let me make sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, community engagement is what my interest is.
Okay, perfect. I'll put you in there. And then you should be right on there. Should zoom you off there. Not joined. You're almost there.
Charles, I'm not in
Yeah.
employment relations, but there's only one person there, so why don't I
Let's
go
do it.
there? Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Al, I think you have to accept. I think it's you just hit that accept button maybe, or join button. I can try again if you'd like, if you can hear me. Al? All right, he accepted. Okay.
Nice to see you. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Carol. Hi, Barbie. How are you?
Hi.
Good. We were just talking a bit about the pro bono support that we received from my classmate, Matthew Richards. I feel like once that's all wrapped up, I want to make sure to properly thank him, but that part of me is just like waiting until we get the forms from the state saying that it's been properly.
I was just applauding Barbie for, her achievement on an area that she could never have expected to have to tackle when she took on this post. So we're lucky that we had you in that chair at this
Thank
time.
you.
Very lucky.
I heard such great reports from the staff. So you're in good standing.
I'm grateful for everyone's support, and I'm looking forward to when the state properly processes all of our paperwork, but
So
it's
and
going
how
to
does it
be-
look? I mean, I never did completely get what this was all about and how this even happens, but bottom line, where are we going to end up with all of it?
So the 501c3, so if you think about it, the Board of Governors will still exist as a group of people who do things to support the school.
Yeah.
It will go from being a proper, 501c3
Yeah.
who failed to file their paperwork and did not raise money, so didn't pay taxes for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it instead will shift into an advisory capacity.
Mhm.
And we'll sort of be like a booster club or a PTA, but of alums. So we won't be directly involved with raising money, but we will support the school's efforts in fundraising campaigns that they do.
So then then maybe we need to disband. Hello, David. I'm Carol Hamilton. I don't think we've ever met.
Hello.
Nice to meet you online. But then is there any purpose of having a fundraising committee?
Well, I think this will Kelly, who will be kind of leading the sort of rebranding of what the Board of Governors, how it will exist and function moving forward. She's been working with staff, and in particular Meredith, on sort of what that role looks like. We're not prohibited from doing fundraising events, but I think that like what the committee will be tasked with might be different. Each Board of Governors, I believe, will still be asked to provide a written donation of $1,000 per person per year. And I think they're going to try to increase the expectation of participation in events. So either Spring Week or attending some of the fundraisers for some of our student affinity groups, or attending local events. Not mandatory, but just, strongly encouraged. But I believe that's something that Kelly's working on with the staff.
Mhm.
But that's, I mean, that is a good question too for Charles, because I'm not sure how they envision that. The Board of Trustees, as you know, they have a much more formal role in writing and raising money and larger contributions that they're being asked to provide. But yeah, Charles, how do you guys see fundraising happening for the Board of Governors and as it changes its structure?
Well, we want to make sure we get to 100% participation, and we want everybody to contribute during the giving days. That is really important because that drives the rest of the giving days. And just as an example, the giving day in the springtime is only 3 years old. So that's a smaller giving day and not well known. Everybody knows Giving Tuesday, and we do a big day on Giving Tuesday, but we have to get to 100% participation. I was going to say 1,000% participation, but we like that too, right, Carol? And that's really important. So at least getting everybody to do that, and then as the board kind of gets a little bit smaller, right? And it's gonna be, there are some folks that just don't show up to meetings, and they're just not that involved. That's okay, but we want to make sure that everyone that is on the board is giving their 1,000 and participating in the giving days. That's just the start. In terms of the other fundraising priorities, to be fair with you, just getting through the 501c3 and that kind of stuff has just been the priority. So we haven't fleshed out the rest of it, but that's just the start. So
there's that wine club.
Yeah, I mean, the wine club's one thing, but the wine club isn't technically as much fundraising. But Carol, we should probably have more of a conversation about what that looks like, especially with the trustees and different fundraising initiatives that they have that they're trying to do. That's the next step, I would say. But making the board smaller, getting everybody at their gift is just, we got to make sure that is happening. And then on top of that, everybody coming to Spring Week, mentoring, maybe joining the wine club, maybe being a chapter leader, maybe being a class agent. Those are the important things in addition. Is when it means on this board to be engaged, we really want to ramp up the engagement so that we're very different than the trustees board, even though they have some initiatives that are engagement things, and there's going to be natural overlap. But yeah, I think that's the answer to the question for now.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's a work in progress, in other words.
Yeah, it is, because we have to get everybody to give their 1,000, and some people just aren't, and so with a smaller group, we believe we'll get there. Yeah, and the giving days are important, and if we can say, hey, we're giving on this day, and everyone else is giving, I think it really does make a difference. I think it really does make a difference, and hearing from a classmate, it really does make a difference. Besides, hey, Charles is asking me for 1,000. Well, I didn't go to UC Law. Yeah.
Okay, well, so David, I'm happy to see that you are interested in the fundraising committee.
So I actually am not sure what committee I'm supposed to be on, but so I saw you all everyone else had 4 people, so I jumped in this one.
Oh, aren't you kind?
And I'm happy
Thank you. Yeah, I think I don't know why, I guess this always seems to be the least popular committee, and somehow I'm the one person that's been stuck with it from the beginning. So it's, but I think we make an important contribution, I hope. And we'll see what happens as we go forward with this new structure. Things may change, and, maybe it'll be disbanded or just revised, or who knows, but time will tell, I guess.
I think so. I mean, does it still stand that if you think of all the different buckets that exist within the law school as places that can receive money, like Charles, will our $1,000 ride and raise be able to go into any of those buckets? So say someone wants to give to LEOP, or someone wants to give to the BARV study fund, or someone wants, that can all still work towards the 1,000. So general funds, I understand, are the most preferred because they're unrestricted and they can go to wherever there's need. But sometimes when people are a little stickier with their funds, they want to have more control over where that goes. So
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the board as well. That is an incentive for folks to give, because my first year at the school, I worked on the LEOP 50th anniversary party, and that was absolutely incredible. And it kind of, there were some down days for that event and getting sponsors and stuff, but in hindsight now it'll be 55, right, in the end of 2024. I know, right, Barbie, and you're a LEOP, you're a former LEOP student, and so
I am, yeah.
I think that
I'm
LEOP
a
fundraising,
former LEOP student as well.
yeah,
Yay for LEOP.
We're
Yes.
all Leah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like, that's just one example of ways that we can gin up support and fundraising, because our LEOP graduates are in my opinion are best, by far most passionate, most grateful, and most appreciative folks that went to UC Law that I've encountered, just talking with people. So
That's interesting, really, Charles.
oh yeah, I mean, that's just don't tell everybody about that, because
Yeah.
I'm biased, and I am, but I'm a human, right? So that's it. Moot court and LEOP are like, and trial team are, top marks. And so yeah, all the buckets, they count, they mean something, they should mean something, and that's important. You can give to wherever you want that you're most passionate about. In my opinion, I think that's a better incentive, a really good incentive.
And for Giving Day, does that usually just go directed to, I know different schools do different things. So I don't remember if the Giving Day for the law school is just general funds, or if it is program specific at certain times of the day.
Wow, I mean, program specific at certain times of the day.
That's what Columbia
unique.
and Barnard was doing,
Yeah.
for quite a while.
What-
This year they didn't do one because of the protests and the war in Gaza,
Mm.
but yeah.
Okay.
And
I
how did they do it, Barbie?
Basically, they make it this sort of a competition. Now, I think it's different because it is a large university with, hundreds of thousands of students and alums. But basically, they do the whole 24 hours of the day, and every hour it's like they either highlight a program or a school, or they do a competition between different programs or schools, or they'll do a random sort of Instagram thing where do this hashtag and we'll select someone from whoever uses this hashtag. But it gives you an opportunity when you give, you say where you're giving from, so which school, and then you say you can have it dedicated to a program. So either financial aid or a journal institute, right? Like they have an Earth Science Institute that's quite popular. But it does require a lot more work on the back end, because you're structuring it in advance, and you're going to get at least some sort of you have people planted who you already know will be giving during those times.
Right.
Yeah, so like when I would give to Barnard financial aid, it wouldn't go to Columbia's financial aid, but it would be incorporated into the entire Columbia University number when they were looking at the total Giving Day dollars. But I was dedicating it just to Barnard financial aid.
So Charles, the trustees, I know our obligation typically is 1,000. And what is their giving obligation?
5,000.
And then does the 5 and the 1, I guess you can specify, but if it's not specified, does it all basically go into the same general fund?
Yeah, if it's not specified, it would be a general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, unrestricted.
Well, and how, by the way, what is our percentage to date of board of governors of the members having given to meet their obligation?
Yeah, I think we're around 70-ish%.
Mhm.
I would have to have Andrew pull the numbers again on Monday when we're back in.
Mhm.
I believe we did send a note as well recently. Hannah sent a note.
Mhm.
But we have a few weeks to go still to track down some folks, and I know you sent one too, Carol, and so we can do that. And get all the ducks in a row, see if we can get a few more by the end of the fiscal year.
And I kept saying school year during the meeting. Like,
We have, I mean, today's the 8th, so we have like approximately 3, no, 3 weeks, give or take, actually.
Yeah.
But so how many people would that be roughly?
I think it's around 10 to 15 people.
That many?
Yeah. Yeah, or less.
And are
I'll have
these
to
people,
double
or do you not know? I mean, are these people who generally give or they never give, in which
They're
case?
generally people that never give and or are rolling off and or are not coming to meetings.
Okay, so we don't have
Yeah.
someone who maybe just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, there's one or two that maybe just forget about it or haven't done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the people we definitely want to somehow reach out to. Because, time goes by, you forget, whatever, you get busy, you think you gave, you didn't, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So we should figure out what's the best way to reach out to those people.
Yes. We need to identify those people first. I can talk with Hannah on Monday or
Okay.
Tuesday when
Mhm.
we're back in, and we'll come up with a strategy to try to talk about that. She's obviously not here at this meeting, so she's probably going to want to report about how it went and also, who attended. So
Mhm.
I'll reconvene with her, and then let's be in contact to try to sort this out over the coming weeks.
Okay.
And then again, back to your initial question about the goal of fundraising by kind of making the board smaller, we are focused on the most engaged folks, the ones that do give. So it'll be easier to get to 100%. And then when we have new people come on board, it's important that they give their 1,000 and that they know that they give their 1,000, and then that's very clear that they give their 1,000.
And I think with Dolpho, I do feel this year, and with Hannah, the
Good
two of
job.
them, in terms of reaching out to governors whose terms were expiring, whether or not they wanted to continue. And also Rodolfo reaching out to people who were being nominated about the contribution requirements. So I do know that the messages are coming out on those ends. But again, I don't know. If someone doesn't want to give or chooses not to give, there's not so much we can do except not ask them to continue serving when their term is up.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of mutual if they don't attend board meetings and they don't respond to email messages.
And how many of those people are there, Charles? And how many of those people are about to roll off the board?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head nor in front of me right now. But
I pulled up,
you might know,
I just-
Barbie.
yeah, I just pulled up this here. I'll throw it in this chat maybe. Sorry, so I still feel quite like ancient when it comes to computers sometimes. I feel like
Okay,
moving
me too.
between the-
You're good.
There we go. So I think I just shared it. You should be able to have access to it, Carol. I think I sent it to everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Hannah and I think Charles, you as well went through this to identify, when the terms are ending, which everyone in red was, and then the pledge fulfillment didn't get filled out, but I think that information might just be coming.
Yeah.
So the are people rolling off.
I think everyone actually in this list, because the governor's terms ending 2023. So yeah, Barbara and Rachel are rolling off because they're going to the Board of Trustees. Karen was
He's very
working,
busy.
yeah. And then Terry, Diana, and Ron are not continuing, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Rodolfo, Lejean, and Claudia are continuing.
So their terms are all up,
Their
but some are
terms,
staying on and some are not returning.
yeah.
Mhm.
And we got one maybe that we're
Okay,
not sure about just yet.
but we can't tell these people who fulfilled their pledge, so.
Not yet, but I think Charles can get that data on Monday.
Yeah.
So there's supposedly there's 2 3-year terms that we can serve, right? That's how it was when I came on. Is that still the case?
I mean, we're completely changing the bylaws.
Because
and
I am
rules
way
and-
beyond that.
Yeah, and also, yeah, Jerome Pandela has been on the board for like 17,000 years. So,
Yeah,
he's a 08, but the guy is like a relic.
right.
He's a lot like his institutional knowledge of like back in 2013 we
Right.
did this, and it's like back in 2016 fall we were able to secure 20 people to do this. It's like so funny. But yeah, we'll get that data going, and I think myself, Hannah, Barbie, and Kelly have all met to discuss some of the newer kind of rules of engagement, or those rules that I was chatting with you on the phone a couple weeks ago, Carol, when we had our fundraising meeting on that one Friday.
Yeah.
And I think that these new kind of goals and expectations, it's like 2 sheets, and we haven't finalized it yet, but we just kind of going through the motions of it. Obviously, as a board, we get to kind of choose, but in there is you have to give your 1,000, you got to give on giving days and be participatory in giving days, those kinds of things. And so Carol, so just to tie the bow on all this, like 35,000 foot view is, I think things on the fundraising side will get a lot better. And then we can add other fundraising planks that you feel like we want to attack that could be successful for this board. But would love to get this board, fundraising side 100%, and then encouraging other classmates to participate in the giving days too.
Okay. And David, when did you come on the board?
I think I've only been on for a year.
Oh, okay. The disadvantage of this whole COVID thing. I mean, I'll tell you something. I just came back from Washington. I was just at a Alliance for Justice board meeting, two board meetings. I'm on their C3 and their C4 boards, both of them. And they were the first in-person meetings since before COVID. And what a difference. I mean, I know, Barbie, you're not going to be the president anymore, but I really think it's important to try to do more in person, because Zoom is fine. And in some ways it's great. But I think we've learned over time, at least for Alliance for Justice, it really matters to have these in-person meetings. It makes a tremendous amount of difference. I don't think we all realized it initially, what a difference it makes to have in-person meetings instead of the Zoom meetings. It's quite extraordinary, actually. So how an organization suffers, I mean, even a really strong organization like Alliance for Justice, really, we didn't really see it, but it really suffered from the fact that we were not all coming together in person. And I have to say, I feel it within this board as well. I think that personal interaction is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna hop to another room real quick, but I'll be back, okay? Great conversation here. Wonderful work. Carol, always wonderful to see you. I want to hear about the fundraiser on Wednesday too, how that went. And David, of course, lovely to see you.
Bye, Charles. Thanks.
Be right back, Barbie, and I'll get everybody back at 3:25.
3:25. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forget his name. Charles, do you recall who that person might be?
Which person? I'm sorry. I just got on as you were starting.
Oh, okay. It's an ex-judge who was interested in putting together a cadre, a affinity group of judges that are Hastings alumni.
Yeah, that's Rick Flyer, Judge Flyer.
Yeah, I think it is. Nice guy. Anyway, so that's why I stopped. I didn't get the kind of support that I felt, that was going to be needed to get this thing off the ground. Number one. Number two, he seemed to want to own the idea, and that was the end of it. So my sensitivity kills me. But Kelly, let's take the next step forward. Send me that information. Let's see what they have to say. And that's kind of an interesting sideways move to maybe get something done.
Yeah, so I just posted a link to the flyer, to the webpage for the CLA program that was yesterday. It's an annual program. I don't know where next year's will be. It'll almost certainly be in Southern California. It will not be in San Francisco again because they try to do Northern and Southern California. But
was this a bar credit for?
I think they only offered 1 hour of diversity and inclusion MCLE credit because most of the programs were about becoming a judicial officer didn't qualify. That's my understanding. But Charles, what we were talking about when you joined was that, Rodolfo in particular has an interest in someday in the not too distant future becoming an ALJ, an administrative law judge. Oh, wow. And then Al was pointing out, which is a fact, which is always, I had always thought to be true, which is that UC Law San Francisco has traditionally produced more state court judges than any other law school. And that we should have sort of a sub, almost like an affinity, not like a formal chapter, but almost like a sub list of our judicial officer alumni, so that we can really target chapter events, bringing the judges in. Because my friends who are judges, I don't want to say they're lonely because they're not lonely, but
exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, you're right. They're isolated.
They crave a lot of interaction with the bar because they don't get a lot of. So, right, I have a lot of judges in my of court, because they want that. And so, but they may not be active alumni, or they may not be actively participating or, paying much attention to our events because they're not, big donors or something. But in terms of like having that as a resource for young lawyers who might be thinking of someday becoming judicial officers, or just the chapter events, right? A happy hour.
Well,
I mean, I understand there are rules about what you can give to a judge and stuff, but if you had a happy hour that was a no host bar, my guess is judges would come to that.
Hey, Charles, what is Flyer's involvement now? I mean, is he?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. Flyer was involved with the group that was actually not happy with the name change. I'll put it at that. So he's not really very involved right now. So we are looking for new leadership for that group. If that's something you feel like you want to help kickstart. We haven't done an event for the judges in person or since ever. And then we started it, I think, virtually in 2021. So
yeah, there was 1 or 2 meetings that were put together. And I think the first meeting garnered about 10 judges, and the second one garnered about 2. That was it. That was the end of it. Yeah.
Well, maybe we want to talk about some new leadership for it, and perhaps, Jamoa Moberly of our trustees board was supposed to help co-lead with Judge Flyer, but I think at this point, I can check in with both of them, but maybe we need to look into that. And then if you're interested, we would love to obviously entertain the idea of you out as one of the many other folks that are involved. But not everyone's as popular as you, Judge Knowles.
But make that inquiry and get back to me.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm a little sensitive to what other fellow alumni are doing, and I don't want to rain on their parade. But
I understand.
Rodolfo, I have a suggestion for you, though, in terms of wanting to become an ALJ or even a judge. And that is, the world of arbitration is a very, very deep cauldron. And there are ample opportunities, not necessarily very financially remunerative, but certainly the opportunity to go out there and practice adjudicatory skills. And I would, just recommend that you look into that. I mean, the PUC has them, the stock exchanges have them, the Better Business Bureau has them, and that's just a great way to meet other people that are doing what you want to do, and picking up the jargon, if you will, of being an adjudicator. So, having said that,
Thank you. And Charles, I could tell you a little bit about what we discussed. I was just typing it up as we were going to go. So we talked about, as part of, under the engagement umbrella, we talked about possibly having some of the groups present at the next Board of Governors, and one of the Board of Governors would kind of talk about the engagement they're doing. We talked a little bit about the regional groups and what they were doing. We talked about possibly having like joint events with other schools, and I was telling them how out here UCLA and Stanford do hikes together. So doing something like with another law school. As you heard, we talked about judge mentorship, all that stuff. And another thing that I wanted to throw out there was one of the Board of Governors who did not accept, as Carol mentioned, he's into space law. So one of the things that when I talked to him on the phone about being on the Board of Governors, he talked about doing an MCLE.
Royal Caribbean huge cruise ship. So we're doing that, and it's my husband's playing the whole thing. I'm just showing up with children. So
great. That's the best kind of trip. Hey, Charles.
It's gonna be great.
Hey.
But I hope next year maybe I will make it back out there. And I usually stay in Napa when I come. My mom still lives in West Oakland, but we've long since outgrown her house with my crew. So but I can always figure out a way to get in there. So I have to do that.
You have to. When's the last time you were on campus?
Longer than I can remember.
Oh my God.
Maybe whatever our last reunion was that I actually made it to. So maybe the 15 year. And so if I graduated in 06, would that have been 21? That's not that long ago then.
Well, 21,
maybe
there's like a bunch of new buildings since 2021.
Right.
Yeah.
They were talking about all the things they were going to do. So I think it was, 21 would have been COVID year. So I know I couldn't have come out then. It had to have been maybe the 10 year, which would have been 16, which seems way too long.
Yeah, we need you back out. It is almost unrecognizable campus if that's the last time you went.
It is. I bet it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Charles.
Charles, are you taking us back?
Yes, I'm going to in just a sec, but I didn't want to intrude on this lovely conversation. I was just hopping from room to room now, so I was just saying hi as well. Can I?
Okay. Did you come here in April? Did I miss you guys?
No, not this year. Only the last year
Okay.
when you were at Kennedy Center with me, which was
yes.
still, I'm like, wow, how was that a year ago?
It was
More
a
than
year
a
ago,
year
and I
ago.
was worried that I had missed it because I am notorious, apparently, like the current students, for missing important emails. Check my work email constantly. And so my personal email sometimes goes by the wayside, and my husband constantly criticizes me for that, but I'm working on it.
Charles,
I'm going to take us back to that, and here we go.
Okay, thanks, y'all. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back. Is this about everyone? Let's see here. Okay. We have everyone back. All the breakout rooms are closed. We are just in the literally the final minute or so of this meeting. I wanted to thank again everyone for joining today's Zoom. As Carol had mentioned in our breakout room, these things are much more fun in person, much more enjoyable. There's a lot more engagement. So I appreciate everyone who stayed on for the entire call today. It's been a wonderful and exciting year to serve as your president. I'm excited to hand over the baton to Kelly Woodruff. As you know, we're sort of changing the structure of the board and some of the committees. There may be shifts in the future years, but I'm excited to work with Kelly and the staff on supporting those initiatives and those changes. All that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful summer, and I'm open to entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, just Barbie, I wish I would have said this at the end of your president's remarks, because now we have only like a third of the people here. But I know that Charles and Meredith and Hannah and I, the entire board, are incredibly appreciative of your leadership this year. I mean, this has to have been the hardest a year for any governor to be president, with everything that you dealt with. And when you asked me to be president-elect, you said, my hope is to turn this over to you, problem solved, and God, you set your mind to something and you did it. So I cannot thank you enough for leaving this committee in the state that it's in, all problems, fixed. So thank you. We're very, very grateful for your leadership, and I shudder to think of the shoes I'm going to have to try to fill.
Oh,
thank you.
You're going to do an amazing job, and thank you for those kind words. And technically, we're still waiting for the Secretary of State and the Franchise Tax Board to sort of hand stamp and say that everything is solved. So the lawyer in me feels like we should wait until we receive that.
That's true. This is my opportunity to thank you, and we know that that's going to happen. So
thank you.
Yes,
It's been a full law school effort. I'm grateful for the pro bono support of my classmate Matthew Richards, 2004 at Nixon Peabody, and really helping us pull together a pro bono team at his firm to really shepherd us through that process. But it's been wonderful working with you with community engagement all those years ago, as we put together that committee when it started. And I'm looking forward to continuing that community engagement, but just in a different way. And I'll still be on the board. I'm not leaving. I'll still be in the ad hoc committee, not leaving.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It's lovely to see everybody.
It's great to see everyone. So we'll just need a motion to adjourn. And
sorry. I'll move to adjourn since my mute's off.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Looking at everyone has voted in favor and there's no opposition. The meeting is officially adjourned at 3:31 p.m. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful summer.
Congratulations, Barbie.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Barbie.
Bye.